Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Just Three Brothers podcast. I'm one of three of your hosts, Kat. Before we do a formal intro today, I'm just going to have a little disclaimer. I think I speak for everyone here when I say that our goals for this channel are to have interesting, thought-provoking, and very just entertaining conversations off the cuff. That being said, there are going to be times where we're making mistakes. So sometimes we may not have a couple facts here or there, because remember, we're going mostly off of memory and just our passion. So the thing is, too, is that if there's something that kind of didn't rub you the right way, feel free to make a comment. You know, we're the kind of guys that like to engage with our community, and that's really important to us. So again, you know, there'll be times where we make a mistake. We might say that, you know, for example, oh, one of the DBZ movies is number 8. Uh-oh, it was actually number 9. So with that being said, another thing that I'm going to say right now, you'll never hear me say this again, but because I think it's up to the viewer to decide what they want to do, what they want to watch. But again, you know, liking our videos and subscribing to the channel is a huge help to us. You know, we're just getting this off the ground, and we've already got a lot of traction. Surprisingly, with the first episode, we'd love to see that traction continue.
Hey guys, it's Dallas here. I'm happy that you guys really showed your support with the first video. That means a lot to us. We have over 100 subscribers now on YouTube and over 500 views. And in 3.5 days, I'd say that's pretty good for us. So, and if people that leave comments, we will reply to you and we will get back to you. And like I said, we will probably end up doing a video specifically answering questions, talking about different animes that you guys like, or whatever the question is, depending on the situation, what the question is. There was a couple ones we had to delete. But anyway, we just got our website up and running, and it's j3b.tv. Again, that's j3b.tv. Our Instagram is Just Three Brothers Podcast, and our Twitter is J3B Podcast. So anyway, today's episode is going to be about future Trunks. And it's a super exciting thing because it's one of my favorite characters. It's Vegeta's son. It's super amazing. I'm really excited for this episode with the bros. So basically, the discussion's going to be, what if Trunks never came back from the future? Like, what if he never hopped in the time machine in either timeline, Super or Dragon Ball Z? So that's what it's going to be about today, and I'll give it to Kat first.
Again, like Dallas said, this is a very, I've been, ever since this was announced, I was very excited about this episode. You know, talking about Raditz was fun and it was good. And I feel like I was a little biased because I'm so interested with that character. But now we're getting to the big boys. We're getting to Trunks. We're getting to the, you know, the prince of all Saiyans. So the idea and concept behind this what if is what would happen if Trunks didn't come back. He didn't come back and kill Frieza. He didn't come back and showcase being a Super Saiyan. He also didn't come back and essentially spill the beans on the androids. The one thing we will say, though, with this episode is it's really important to make the distinction. We're going to speculate and imagine that Goku never got the heart virus, because basically if Trunks didn't come back and Goku had the heart virus, the history of Trunks movie plays out. And I'm sure that that's a lot of criticism that people would say, like, well, if he doesn't come back, it's just going to be history of Trunks. So in this particular conversation that we're going to have, Goku never got the heart virus. So, you know, I think it's a really, a really pivotal kind of conversation to have, because, again, when Trunks came back, you know, not only was this right off the heels of Goku going Super Saiyan, it was only a few episodes, if I believe, down the road, and then all of a sudden, out of the blue, some kid comes, he's Super Saiyan instantly. Boom, he's doing Super Saiyan like it's nothing. There's a few other dynamics that I think are really important to make the distinction with too. There would be no speculation that the androids are coming. And again, these are perfect killing machines that don't use ki, they don't use energy, they never tire. So these are very formidable foes that the Z fighters have to deal with. There's even some speculation that it could have been a Marty McFly kind of scenario. Like when Trunks comes back, maybe Vegeta and Bulma wouldn't have got inspired to, you know, have him in the first place. So maybe he just kind of gets deleted, similar to like a Back to the Future kind of thing.
Yeah, so right off the the first thing I want to say is we're saying hypothetically, let's say Trunks dies or Bulma dies and is never able to complete the time machine. That's basically the hypothetical. And then right off the bat, I just want to say let's say Trunks never comes and Frieza and his dad arrive, right? So Frieza comes and King Cold comes, and then Goku just got back fresh off a yard rat, so he knows instant transmission. He's got Super Saiyan. He probably did a lot of training while he was there as well. I think Goku would be able to handle Frieza and King Cold along with the Z Fighters. I think they'd be able to handle Frieza and his dad pretty easily. What do you guys think?
The reason why I think that that's accurate as well is just because of the fact that not only did Trunks have absolutely no problems with King Cold and Frieza, um, Goku really didn't have a problem with Frieza once he came back with Super Saiyan. So again, we don't even really get to know how strong King Cold was in general because he just got sliced and diced so quickly. But again, I agree with you completely. I don't think they would have had. I think it would have been a fight. Like I think it would definitely would have been a slugfest for sure. But I would speculate that it would. This is again the first of many tangents that Trunks not coming back could have been very interesting. But this is one tangent that I'm going to give it that I think Vegeta and Goku have it on lock.
The I disagree, boys. I'm sorry, but you got to be realistic. I'm not saying Goku if he was there. If he was there at the same time Trunks was, absolutely. I think Goku, Super Saiyan form, especially after the instant transmission on Yardrat, yes, he could have handled it. But the fact is, he was still in the pod. He didn't come. He wasn't there right away. So if Trunks didn't show up, I don't think there'd be no more Z fighters, boys, because you have Frieza and King Cold, and they would have just, man, it would have took 10 seconds for them to wipe the floor with Gohan,
We have
Vegeta.
Krillin. We have Krillin.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what do you mean, man?
yeah.
Yeah,
Garlic Junior's henchman never held a Destructo disc in his hand. You're right, but I guess it did. What wasn't it? Frieza's? Yeah, it was Frieza's own Destructo disc actually that cut him in half. So
and Krillin's is actually, I think, roughly 1,000 times stronger than Frieza's. So again, we have Krillin, so it's kind of fun to think about, like, him throwing a Destructo disc, two of them, and then King Cold's done, Frieza's done. So
yeah,
I mean,
Frieza
wasn't that
never.
obvious, Dallas? What
Frieza.
do you mean?
Yeah, I
Krillin
don't
could
know.
just easily take out Frieza.
I don't know why I would even bring that up. I didn't know Frieza. I thought Krillin got killed by Frieza, and that's why Goku went Super Saiyan. I don't
Begin
know what
with,
I'm
yeah.
talking about.
Uh, no, but I completely forgot that Goku wasn't there once Frieza and King Cold arrived. That's something. So I guess Trunks came, chopped those boys up, and then they were talking for a while, and then eventually Goku shows up. So I don't know. I think it didn't seem like it was that long before Goku finally arrived. So I think maybe Vegeta and the Z Fighters might have been able to hold him off until he came, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
There would have been casualties though,
Oh
100%.
yeah, for sure.
Somebody would have got killed, and I think if I'm not mistaken, I think it's two times you can get res back with Dragon Ball from Earth.
Yeah.
I think I could be wrong, but I know there's a cap on it. But yeah, so and I know some of those boys have died a few times. So, they might have not came back. And don't get me wrong, like we said in the last Dragon Ball podcast that we did, like, the Z fighters, you know, they didn't really ever shine with the exception of a couple of them. Piccolo, of course, that'd be the big boy. And then Tien had his moment during the Cell saga as well. But
ooh, I know this really doesn't have much to do with that, but I would love to touch on that. I mean, I feel like that's one of the sleeper scenes when Cell is essentially, I believe, one or two transformations from being perfect when he's got the
one.
pink lips. When Tien is holding him in that hole with the Trigun, I absolutely, that's a sleeper scene that a lot of people don't want to talk about just because Tien seems so just not very important to the scene, but that was, I think, his peak when he's actually holding Cell and the amount of ki that he used just to completely gravestone that dude. It was really nice to see Tien, come out with a point like that. So I love that scene. It's probably my favorite Tien scene of all time. I mean, there's not really many Tien scenes you can compare it to other than in Dragon Ball,
Dragon
where
Ball,
he
yeah.
really was one of the strongest fighters at the time. But I mean, it just goes to show that he's still hanging with the boys, and sometimes he's coming out there using new techniques. I mean, solar flare, such a
Classic.
such a classic, well utilized ability. I mean, I think it's a 1.2 cell even used solar flare when he was in that form to get away. So again, I just wanted to touch on that really quick, just the fact that Tien really got a moment there.
Well, I'll just say that was like, I don't want to be a jerk to Tien, but that was like really his only shining moment in Dragon Ball Z. I think he might have had a minor one with the Cybermen. But I can't
Nah,
really
dude, he
recall.
just got his fucking arm chopped right off, and he just got dumpstered in the Sand Saga.
Okay, so it was his only
Yeah.
time to shine in the whole series. And you know what? At that particular time, because Vegeta and Trunks, they might have just been getting out of the hyperbolic time chamber, if I'm correct, or like they were just getting onto Kami's lookout. But for him to be able to handle a character like Cell in his base form dealt with 17, he dealt with Kami, Piccolo, he dealt with 16. And for Tien, after he became so much more powerful, to be able to hold him in that pit and just shove him further and further and further down, and he was exhausted after too. Like it was just a really shining moment for Tien. We can bring it back to
Okay.
the what
So
ifs.
one thing though, I think I just thought of this too. You mentioned 16. Now remember, 16's primary goal was to ensure that Goku was dead. That was his primary goal. Trunks hadn't even understood who he was looking at when he saw 16, because let's remember, I'm pretty sure we all saw History of Trunks. That movie's phenomenal. But it's just 17 and 18. There's no Cell, there's no 16. Basically, Dr. Giro's creations are 17 and 18, and they've essentially ruled the world. They're making child's play out of anyone they've encountered, and then we have what would I consider, although again, it's hard to say. I don't even know if that movie is considered canon. I don't think any of the movies are. But this is my favorite Gohan we have ever seen. You have one-armed Gohan, and he is completely badass. I love this Gohan. I would say that in my opinion anyway, this is one of the most emotional movies, and definitely it tugs at your heartstrings. I love that movie. But again, this is if he didn't come back. So we're kind of just trying to go down the route of if the history of Trunks never occurred at all.
Yeah, okay, so the only thing I have a question, and it's kind of relates, but it kind of doesn't. So in one of the timelines, the androids are weaker than the other timeline. So is it in Goku's timeline that the androids are weaker? Do you remember? Or is it in
I
Trunks's
wasn't aware
timeline?
that there was a timeline they were weaker.
No,
I didn't either.
I
I
feel like
know that they
Trunks said
got
something like that. That's
I
all.
know that they got a lot of traction in History of Trunks. It was just them two. They were, it was almost like watching a ballet sometimes, how they would fight. There was two of them. The engagement with Gohan, I think it was like really well choreographed. Another fun fact that I absolutely love with this movie is that it showcases Dance of Eternity by Dream Theater, a great band, a phenomenal track. And when that track kicks in for the fight with when Trunks shows up and goes Super Saiyan, there's nothing like it. Those are the moments you really live for in the Dragon Ball Z series, and that's something that I just absolutely loved.
And that is something we will be talking about in a later podcast as well, because we do want to go over those movies. But unfortunately, our youngest brother watched most of them when he was too young to remember them. So we're definitely going to be doing some homework and watching those movies. All three Broly movies, the BoJack movie, Android 13, Harudagarn. There's the Turles, not King Piccolo.
Lord
Lord
Slug, you
Slug,
gotta
there we go.
love
Yeah,
that one.
that boy, that was a good one. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff there that we want to go over, and I definitely it's even though it's not canon, those are some really, really good movies. And I mean, yeah, that's definitely some homework that we're gonna have to do for the boy.
Yeah, that's something I wanted to mention for those who didn't finish the first episode of the podcast. I think towards the end, I mentioned that I've only seen Dragon Ball, the series, and then past the Saiyan and Frieza saga. So past that, I only really know what's going on based on video games, just YouTube videos and stuff like that. So I basically know the whole plot, but a lot of the filler, a lot of the fights and things like that, I haven't seen.
Which is fine. And I think that's the one thing that Catlin really brings to the table with you is is knowing the Dragon Ball really well with you. Because don't get me wrong, I've watched Dragon Ball. I really enjoy Dragon Ball, but it's not something I've ever rewatched. I watched it one time, start to finish, and that was it for me. I don't get me wrong. I love Dragon Ball, but what I have, the feelings I have towards Z and even Super, it's like the martial arts thing. Yes, it's awesome, but like once they start flying around and Super Saiyan and all that stuff, like I just dig it. It's always been something I've really been into, is transforming and becoming more powerful, more strong. Like that's why I love this boy behind me. Like it's just because I love that. I love the just raw power that these guys end up getting, and especially towards the end of Super as well. And that's something, Carter, we could touch on as well, because not only are we talking about what if Trunks didn't come back in the Cell games, or sorry, the Cell saga, but what if he didn't come back for the Zamasu saga, for the Goku
That's
Black? Like
true.
what would have happened? Like yeah, it's crazy to think about. Like that could change the whole everything. There might be no tournament of power because it would have been over. You know what I mean? It's crazy.
I can definitely appreciate power scaling and the power creep of the show, but there's a certain kind of charm when you see little kid Goku ripping around on that Nimbus and having the Neo extend. I absolutely love the charm that Dragon Ball had. I would say in certain aspects, I actually enjoyed Dragon Ball more than Z in some aspects, but again, I think that Z is a heavy hitter. It's the best of the four, in my opinion. Again, we've touched on this before. I haven't watched Super. I watched maybe like a few episodes. I, again, understand, much like Carter, the gist of it. I understand it. But again, it's been touched on. It didn't wow me out of the gate. And most of the movies, I'd say the only movie that I really enjoyed was the Broly movie. The other two, for me, in my opinion, just for my taste, it wasn't really for me. But I can understand the appeal and why people would like it. But we're going to pull it back and just get back to the next progression and step. So Frieza, we're talking that it's going to be a fight. I think we can all agree it's a fight. Depending on if Goku shows up, that's fine. But I think it's not going to be a drastic engagement. I think they have that fight. So now we're going to go on to the next logical step.
The next logical step would obviously be when they get out of the hyperbolic time chamber, right? Because if you think about it, even with Trunks in the timeline, like no offense to the boys, but Vegeta and Trunks got dummied, like straight up, just by 18. Like they really, until they went in the hyperbolic time chamber, like if it weren't for that moment specifically, like I don't know what they would have done. Like they couldn't. Piccolo was really the goat when it comes to anyone on the hero side of things, right? Like he was the only one who engaged 17. He was the only one who engaged Cell. Like none of them had shit, even with Super Saiyan Vegeta, Super Saiyan Trunks. They just didn't. It wasn't, the scaling wasn't the same. They weren't on the same level. And even if they were, which they weren't, they also, the androids, like you said, they don't get slow, they don't get tired, they have infinite amount of energy. Like it's not even a fight. You have to be much more powerful than to even, you know what I mean, to compete with that fact that they don't get tired and stuff like that. They're like the perfect killing machines, like you said.
So let's remember too, though, is that there was 19 and there was 20. Those are androids, Dr. Giro and the white one that was kind of pudgy with the pointy hat. So Trunks, if I'm not mistaken, Trunks also had no idea what he was looking at when he saw those two as well. There is one of the most cryptic and dark scenes, I think, in all of Z, when 20 and 19 are assaulting the city and Yamcha tries to step in and defend the city. He basically he gets drained and then pierced literally through the chest by Dr. Giro in a burning city. I think that is one of the most like visually disturbing scenes in Z. It's very graphic. It's like they've never done that sort of thing before. So I love that they really swung for the fences there. But I think that there's a lot of really interesting outcomes essentially where not even just on the combat side of things, but we really get to see a softer side of Vegeta, even though he's very, he doesn't, he's not familiar with these sort of feelings before because he's so prideful, but he does love his son. And although he doesn't know how to show it, and he's essentially doesn't really know how to be a dad, it's clear that with Trunks coming back, and speculation can be made that it maybe subliminally inspired Bulma and Vegeta to get together and end up having him. We get to see the softer side of Vegeta that we've never seen before, because he has this very gritty exterior and he's very prideful. So it was nice to see some of these moments where it felt like it really humanized the character. And then he goes to karate chop his son and then use atonement. But I mean, other than that, I think that there's a lot of moments that really pushed him to that next level because of his son. Ergo, one of the moments I can think of off the top of my head is when Cell kills Trunks and he pierces him through the heart with that energy laser. That really kicked it up to third gear for Vegeta for that. So like I say, I feel like even if we're not talking necessarily combat, which I think is the main focus, we really get to see a humanized version of Vegeta, just because there is that that pride that his son is just so powerful, and it's what he wanted. So
Vegeta, I don't like. Yeah, I get it. He got soft for sure, and softer, but he was basically a villain. Like even in Dragon Ball Z, he was more of an anti-hero, really, because he never really did anything spectacular, as far as, like, with the exception of like sacrificing himself in the Buu saga. Like he was always hard, like a hard guy, right? And the thing is, even in Dragon Ball Super, like, he ends up going toe to toe with his son to see what he's got, and he just dummies him. Like, he's just like, it's not even like it's his kid. Like, he's just got no sympathy whatsoever and just kicks the shit out of him. So Vegeta's just, I don't know. I love Vegeta. He's a thug. He's one of my favorite characters by far in the series.
something to think about too, and this is something that I will never let Bulma get away with, is she essentially hooked up with the first villain, the real true villain that we've seen. So are we just going to not account for the fact that he was introduced to the series to be a psychotic murderer that wanted it out for Earth? Bulma dropped all that because he's looking good in that pink. I understand it. It's a little hard to look good in pink, but I think when you're able to do it, you can do it good. So
Speaking of wearing pink, appreciate the shirt you're wearing there. I think it's
this
very
old thing?
fitting for the episode.
This old thing.
It's a nice shirt. It's literally perfect. Yeah. Anyway, so basically, coming back to it, if Trunks ever came, like, we have no idea where the series would have went, to be honest. And like, just with the fact of him not coming, there's just so many, like, basically so many rabbit holes you can go down. Because, like, for me, the big one is, obviously you guys disagree with me, but the Frieza thing. Goku wouldn't have got there in time, lost some Z fighters right out of the gate, lost some boys. Some of the boys which were a big part and a big help in the Cell tournament, right? Like with the not Cybermen, so with all the Cell Juniors and stuff. Like, if they didn't have that many Z fighters, like, it could have been just literally onslaught. Like, everyone could have got killed there. And then another thing is, without Trunks, I don't think Vegeta would ever really, like, who would have Vegeta went in the hyperbolic time chamber? Would Vegeta ever have became Ultra Super Saiyan? So, like, which wouldn't have really, in reality, it wouldn't have really mattered, because all he did is showcase that he could kick the shit out of Form 2 Cell. But it's still, his pride got in the way of that, of course. And I really wish Trunks would have just handled it, man. Like, instead of thinking and talking and just being soft, like, if Trunks was more like his dad, Cell would have never went perfect Cell. If Trunks was like a spitting image of Vegeta, he would have handled it. You know what I mean? He would have been like, no, this ain't happening. Not in my time. I've watched this happen in my timeline. I sure as hell ain't happening that. But
That's a good
he
point.
put trust in his dad, as usual, and his dad let him down. Every time Vegeta has the upper hand, he literally just says, screw it. Like, go your full form, Cell. Just do it. I'll handle you in that too. And then he eats a full-fledged final flash of the face, like Vegeta's most powerful attack that he's had yet. That's literally the most powerful one.
I don't understand where this confidence come from, because it's like, didn't slightly earlier you get your arm literally kicked broken by one of the androids, and then it's like seriously, man, like, he needs to, like, stick in his lane. But remember, so if Trunks doesn't come back, is Cell even there too? Because is he able to utilize the time machine? Right? Because I'm still a little fuzzy. I can't even remember, because I know that obviously Dr. Gero created Cell, but I'm just a little fuzzy. Like, why didn't Cell show up in History of Trunks? There was a
He
reason
did.
why.
He did. 100 or no, was it? Oh, the history. I get it confused because there's the history of Trunks, right? But then there's also in the actual Dragon Ball Z canon,
They
Trunks goes
show,
back in time,
yeah.
or sorry, back to his own time. He destroys both the androids. So I don't think it is History of Trunks. History of Trunks definitely doesn't show it because History of Trunks is literally just a history. But after Dragon Ball Z is done, Trunks goes back to his future, and he literally dummies both the androids, and then he goes to the time capsule, which is in the field, and it's all like the same as when Piccolo found it. It was all covered over and all like mossy and shit, and Cell was inside, or Cell just broke out or whatever. And then he just dummies Cell. He one-shot Cell, like one-shots him.
Well, okay, so like I'm just trying to remember, because again, it is a little fuzzy for me. So how did Cell even end up getting deployed in the original just series?
I have no clue because it never showed it.
Because I
It
don't
was
know why I keep seeing like his cocoon state bug, and then he's prowling around as the hello,
yeah,
and he's
but
just stabbing people with the needle tail, which I mean, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I
that's
think the thing that if I'm not mistaken, I believe that there's two different voice actors for Cell in his perfect form, where he's very, he almost sounds regal, and it's, but I really always loved the creepy insect version of Cell. That's my favorite iteration of Cell. I've always liked how he was going around towns to just absorb people in one of the most grotesque ways possible. I just think that sort of stuff is really good. So yeah, I'm a little fuzzy sometimes on just basically how he's deployed, but I guess really, if I'm not mistaken, he just shows up. He just kind of shows up and he's just stabbing. He's just getting the stabbing going.
I
So
feel like Piccolo senses him from the lookout or something because he already was like literally in the moment on in Kami's lookout getting ready to fuse with Kami for the androids. But then I feel like I'm gonna have to look into that because that's actually kind of bugging me too. But then he like notices that like because doesn't Cell wipe out a whole town, like absorbs a
yeah,
whole town of people, and then that's when if Piccolo comes, and then he's still absorbing. He spends like a lot of the show in that form until he can find the android, just sucking people up and like,
oh, I love it. I love it. The
yeah,
businessman getting sucked up.
at least Boo and Frieza just kill. They don't like suck you into suck the life right out of you because he doesn't absorb them like he absorbs the android. He literally just like pokes them and just like bleh, sucks the life right out of them, right? Like all wrinkly and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We just talk about how the first form cell and the third form cell were really cool, but then something happened in the middle there. Something got lost in translation, I think, because he was just like ugly as fuck, and then his voice was like really weird if I remember correctly, and then
Vegeta.
yeah, he sounded kind of like that. And then we have third form cell who sounds like fucking Plankton from SpongeBob, and then obviously first form cell is pretty cool as well. But
Oh, I absolutely love. I think like just his design is so interesting. I love First Form Cell, just the voice every single time he introduces himself, and he's just hello Piccolo, and he's just so creepy. I just absolutely love that. You know, but again, so now if we're going natural progression again, so we're done with Frieza. Frieza's either been dealt with or not. To some degree, you know, the Cell games, I think the Cell games obviously would have went differently, but in the end, it was Gohan that absolutely, took it to the Matthews Bridge and completely killed Cell. I think we can all agree that, other than getting blasted and inspiring Vegeta to throw a Kai Blast here or there, I don't want to get discredit Trunks too much, but I don't think he had that much of a hand in the Cell games. Once he was perfect, I think Trunks is pretty irrelevant. Most of the fighting really happened with, other than the Cell Juniors, which I really, that's fine or whatever. I think that based on the fact that there was one Cell Junior per person, I don't even think it would have really mattered that much. So just off the hop, we're gonna eliminate Frieza. I think we discussed that as far as it can really go. Cell, obviously there's more speculation. I'd love to hear what people in the comments might say. There's some things that you could probably speculate with that. But then what's next? Obviously we're getting into the Buu saga.
Wait, one thing I want to touch on really quick. If Trunks never came, the Z Fighters wouldn't have been training nearly as hard as they were. So I think once they get around, I don't know if it would have been as easy as it was, because they wouldn't be nearly as strong as they were in the actual Cell games and even the beginning of the Android saga, because they had no idea the threat that was approaching. So
There's
who's
three
to
layers.
say?
So there's 3 layers to it. I feel like on one hand, there's obviously the combat intricacies, so how the fights might go. Number 2, obviously the emotional connection. We have a lot of characters that really I feel like Trunks was almost instantly liked. He was a fan favorite out of the gate. He probably had one of the coolest intros I've ever seen to a character, and I'm talking about across media. Like he just comes whippity snip. We've been dealing with Frieza for so long. It was crazy how much of a struggle it was with Frieza. He comes in, he's just like, "What are you talking about, Frieza? What are you talking about, King Cold? They're gone." So and then the third final layer is basically, well, actually the second layer is the connection, the emotional connection, and then the third final layer is just the raw information that he brought from the future. I think that like you mentioned, Carter, and I'll let you continue that point. I just wanted to kind of just peruse this idea. The sheer amount of information that he actually brought back from the future was so paramount to I believe their success from the series onward at that point.
Yeah, I didn't really have much to say other than the point I brought up, but because again, I haven't seen the actual Cell saga in itself, so I just thought, since they had no idea the androids were coming, they probably would have continued their training, but not nearly as hard. Maybe they would have still went to the hyperbolic time chamber and things like that. But another thing is there's a limit to how many people can go in the hyperbolic time chamber together, right?
I don't know if that's ever touched on.
So let's say Trunks never came. Do you think Vegeta would maybe go in with Piccolo, or maybe he would have went in with Goku and his son Gohan? Or
You got to think that he's going in with somebody. You can't really go in alone. Like what you're just like, I don't know. I don't really understand what kind of training you'd be doing in there other than like 4 billion push-ups.
Yeah.
Just riding solo. But I mean, Goku even showed that when you're in a ship with like a million bajillion times gravity, when you're on the way to Namek, a couple sit-ups can do a boy some good. So
That's the thing, right? We already know that the gravity in the hyperbolic chamber is even stronger than the gravity in the gravity in the ship that Goku travels with. Obviously, Bulma fixes one up for Vegeta and whatever I can't even remember what ridiculous amount of Vegeta was doing in during the Buu saga or whatever. But it's just like Piccolo and him going into the time chamber. I really don't like. Obviously, it would have been good for Vegeta because like we already know that Saiyans get stronger after battle and after they recover, but Nameks don't. So the amount of strength that Saiyans can get in the same time compared to any like Namekians or anything is not.
But you're training with Vegeta.
Yeah, that's true.
I
Yeah,
think
that's
like
true.
Piccolo's never going to get more of a more competent training partner. I think that it's more beneficial in my opinion for Piccolo than it would be Vegeta. One thing I've always thought is somewhat curious is the fact that why don't number one, I'm sure this is explained in the series, but why don't they train not only more in the chamber, but also, why isn't it 2 Saiyans? If we want to min max and absolutely go to the next level, why isn't it just Goku and Vegeta in the hyperbolic time chamber for literally 40 billion years, just recovering and beating the shit out of each other and just coming out juiced? I don't know why they don't ever do that sort of stuff. Maybe just because it's obviously that's not really interesting. They just like, oh, there's a threat coming. Let's go super juice and then come out. So maybe that's why, but it also could be a limitation of the actual chamber itself. I know that they use the chamber itself in very integral moments in the series to get that really competitive edge with training, but it's not like they're using this chamber a lot. And if I'm not mistaken, Kami's very particular with when they can use it.
But that's the thing, Kami's gone once they fuse with Piccolo, so that's
Mr.
probably.
Popo.
Oh
Mr.
yeah,
Popo.
I love Mr. Popo.
Yeah, Mr. Popo.
I'm just thinking there's got to be some reason to it. Didn't in the Boo saga the hyperbolic time chamber actually get destroyed though?
The entrance.
Yeah.
They trapped Boo in there.
But then Boo was able to like.
Didn't he manipulate time or
He was a
whatever, or like
sonic
bend the
screen.
fabric of
Yeah.
reality to just like.
Another one of those Dragon Ball Z loopholes.
Yeah.
Oh, the Patera unfused. Oh, Boo ate you.
Oh, that's
we're
a good
gone.
I really want to talk about that. I know this really has very little to do with, the what if of Trunks coming back, but something that I think was just so interesting that they did is they set up the Potera fusion. Obviously, if people aren't familiar with what the Potera fusion, that's with the earring. They set it up for episodes and episodes. That this is permanent. This is permanent. You got to think about it. This is a permanent fusion. And then so we get like maybe 3 episodes of Vegito, and then they go into Boo for some reason, and then it's just fuck. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. That the thing that's ridiculous with that is, yeah, okay, that's a plot hole in itself, right? Is the fact that he went into Boo, and then all of a sudden, because he's in Boo, they unfuse. But Super's canon, and Carter, remember when they fused it into Super Saiyan Blue Vegito?
Yeah.
And I think it only lasted a half hour, even though it's
Yeah, then
supposed
they
to be permanent.
unfuse.
With the earrings?
Yeah, I forget the reasoning behind it. Why did they unfuse in Super? I'm not. It's been a while since I've seen that saga, so
I think it was power because of because of
just
the
the
sheer
sheer
power.
power.
Well, let's be
Again,
fair.
even that is kind of
Let's be fair. If
ridiculous.
Dragon Ball Z was a boat, it'd be taking on a lot of water because it is not airtight.
No.
There's a lot of times where there's a lot of things that they really build up and then they just break it away with like an episode or two.
You'd have to be
Another
scooping
thing,
the fuck out of that water with buckets and just like shoveling that shit out because
yeah, basically. Something that I always thought was a little bit corny, a little bit cheesy is when they do that We're Inside Boo Now a couple episodes. It really had
Yeah.
this like magic school bus feel where it's like, I don't want to know what Arnold's insides look like. I don't know why we're doing this. This is what his aorta looks like episode. But I thought that was awful. There's a couple times too where it's like, I believe Boo hits him with the candy ray and turns Vegito into a chocolate. And it's like they do this thing where it's like he's smaller, he's like a bullet, and he's like beating the shit out of Boo, and Boo's like, no, stop, please, anything but chocolate. But I always thought that the Boo saga, although there are some redeeming qualities, I think it was a shit show as far as incongruencies and just sheer ridiculousness if we want to go there.
I hate to admit it, man, but the real shine for the whole Boo saga as a whole was literally the beginning of it. You know what I mean? Meeting Kabuto Kai, them going into Babadi's ship or whatever, and Gohan facing off with Dabura, and Majin Vegeta and Goku, and Majin Vegeta and Boo. You know
hey,
what I
don't
mean?
forget about Super Saiyan 3. That was one of the most iconic power-ups in the entire series, Fucking Sean Chamel passed out while doing the screams for that, so you can't forget about that.
Love it, dude. Sean, okay, he is amazing.
And just the transformation itself was so dope when it unveils and you just have Goku with like
The
fucking
music when
chemotherapy, no eyebrows, and then he's just got the flow.
Oh yeah, I absolutely love SSJ3. I love the idea that when he had no eyebrows, he's got that look on his face. I'm like, is Goku a villain? Like what? Uh-oh.
And he got serious when he was in that form too. His voice gets deeper. He starts taking shit he starts taking shit a lot more seriously in that form.
Yeah, there's something iconic about that Super Saiyan 3 form, which is because I'm always going to be bringing up Super too, because I just it's the freshest one to me. But the fact that Beerus smashed Super Saiyan 3 Goku, it just really shows like how much the progression of the show changed at that point. Because like you said, that was Goku's pinnacle. That was his that's his powerful form. Obviously, whatever GT, we're leaving that out of it just because. Come on, Super Saiyan 4 was thug life. No one can argue that. Like, I love, like, still to this day, Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta, man. Like that red hair, and oh man, it's just it's
the coolest.
Sweet.
The
Big
coolest.
Bang, Bang, Kamehameha. Like
cool.
what? Oh yeah, it's
so
sweet.
Cool.
But the thing that weirds me out with the whole fusion thing is I always want to blame Vegeta's character for the reason that the fusion is so shit, because of the fact that it always seems like he's just so cocky. You know what I mean? That's not Goku, you know what I mean? Like the fusion just seems to amplify it, especially with Vegito. It's just like he just thinks he's the man. You know what I mean? He knows he's the man. So it's like, oh well, why don't you go get another form then and I'll handle you too. It's like, oh God, like cut it out, Vegeta. Just turn down the pride a little bit, buddy.
I just don't know what's going on with what's actually taking place when they fuse, because he has this monologue about how it's like, I'm not Goku or Vegeta, I'm Vegito, and it's just like, what? Like, you guys are obviously so who's going home with Chi-Chi? Who's going home with Bulma? Like, how are we doing that?
That's a good point. If they did stay fused, how would that go? Would they
three of
just
them.
have both of them on under their arms, or what's going on here?
Boy. Hell yeah, boy.
And then all their kids would just be hanging out. You got Gohan, Goten, Trunks, or just all the boys,
I don't know why you gotta bring the kids into it, but
Oh no, that's not what I meant. I'm just saying it would just be weird. Like, is he gonna be the serious Vegito just being a dick to his kids like he is to Trunks, or is it gonna be Goku like actually like being nice to his kids? It's just a weird. Out of all the characters to fuse, like Goku and Vegeta are polar opposite characters. There's just completely different. So it's kind of funny when they fuse together and just the arrogance
Yeah,
of
I
it.
think they should have just ditched that whole concept to begin with, that when they fuse, that they would be permanently fused together, if they were just gonna throw that away within a couple episodes, and then bringing it back even in Super, and then they defuse again.
But if I'm not mistaken, Kibito and Shen were permanently fused.
Yeah, they were. They've never unfused. It was just them.
I don't know. I just think that's such a good point, that the Buu saga kind of got shitty once Buu came out of the egg. I remember the first time he was introduced, he was like, obviously the fat Buu, which over the years, I think, especially with his friendship with Hercule and stuff, he's really grew on me. But when he was first introduced, I was absolutely horrified that this is the direction they were taking. They build this egg hatching up for so long, and they're going down the levels of the spaceship, and there's all this build up going on. And then when Boo finally comes out, he seems like he's borderline autistic. He's the character design is like, he looks like he's wearing a massive diaper. Like, I wasn't sure what they were doing with it, but then obviously they brought it back. They reeled it in once you realize he's going toe to toe with Super Saiyan 3 Goku, the strongest at the time form. But again, I feel like that's a really good point. The Boo saga kind of just went downhill once Boo got out of the egg, but there's so many redeeming qualities with right before then. And another character that I think is really overlooked is, obviously Demon King Dabura. I think Dabura is such a very cool character, and that is another one of those unique techniques where he's got the stone spit. I know that he got Piccolo, and I believe he got Krillin with the stone spit. He tried to get Gohan with it as well. I just really can't remember how Piccolo got unstoned, I guess, but the thing that I thought was a little weak is that the way he describes it, he's turning in the stone, I think ended up being it's just a coating. You're trapped in the stone, which is a little less severe, I feel. But again, it's that Medusa kind of thing where now they're made out of stone. I always just thought he was like interesting. I think he was just really well designed. His look was really cool. He just seemed like such a a very classic style villain.
The thing is, like, I know the beginning of the Boo saga was honestly the shining moments. You know what I mean? It really amped you up to the point where even though there was a lot of a filler and bullshit in the Boo saga, there was still some cool things. Like the fact that Vegeta went toe to toe with Kid Buu. I know it sucks that I'm always bringing up Vegeta, but like I said, he's my favorite. So bringing up Vegeta, he went toe to toe with Kid Buu. Don't get me wrong, he was getting his ass kicked the whole time. But for him to be able to even hold off Kid Buu when he's that much stronger than him, like he's not Majin, he's just Super Saiyan 2. And for him to be able to hold him off long enough for Goku to do the Spirit Bomb is amazing. And another person that we left out that we haven't talked about, really, other than fighting Dabura, is Gohan. when Gohan goes Ultimate Man and he's literally fighting Super Buu. Like I
Oh.
know you hate Ultimate Gohan, but the fact of the matter is, at that time in the series, no one was a match for Super Buu. Nobody, not Gotenks Super Saiyan 3, not anybody. He absorbed Piccolo, he absorbed Gotenks, and then he's
Oh,
like,
sorry, for Super Buu with Gohan and Super Buu?
yeah, Gohan and Super
Oh, I
Buu.
love that fight. But okay, so here's again, this is full disclosure. You guys already know this, but if everyone needs to know, I think Mystic was the catalyst for Gohan getting essentially neutered. My idea behind the strength of Gohan was his rage and that hidden potential with his rage. Now he goes with Supreme Kai, and he learns to essentially be in a mystic state where he's now calm. He's now with, I believe he's in a state that is stronger than Super Saiyan 3, but now this is a constant state, but he's locked in. It is as strong as he's ever going to get. He is now Mystic Saiyan. I think that this was arguably one of the worst choices to do with that particular character. I would have loved to see this done with, even maybe Trunks to some extent, or, one of the more less important characters. But to do it to Gohan was very difficult for me to see, just simply because of that rage factor had really always got him out of sticky situations. It's how he defeated Cell. It's how he initially did the headbutt against Raditz. It really just goes to show that once he became Mystic, it was a dive from there. Even before that, we're going back to when he's going to high school and he's the great Saiyaman and all this stuff. I think that this is an absolute abomination to the show. I think the great Saiyaman is a travesty. It felt like the Jar Jar Binks of Dragon Ball Z. I can't believe they did that to my boy. And this is right after the Cell games, right after Gohan has been as cool as he's ever been. Then he literally just absolutely gets castrated. So it was very hard for me to see such a massive pivot. I think that as a kid, he's always studying and hitting the books because his mom says so.
We gotta not touch on it too much, because obviously you guys don't know this yet, but one of the podcasts we're doing in the future is talking specifically about these facts about Gohan and all that stuff. So we don't want to go too much into it, because there's going to be a whole show on my boy Gohan and his basically unlimited potential. So unfortunately, we're going to wrap it into Super now, because of the fact that we've talked about Trunks basically in the whole Dragon Ball Z timeline. It honestly seems like, have we come to the verdict that really it doesn't make a difference? Like, really, that seems like what we've what we've come to.
Trunks not coming back doesn't make a difference is the conclusion we're coming to.
Isn't that
I personally disagree. I still think they wouldn't have trained nearly as hard, and who's to say they would have even been able to defeat the androids or Cell in the first place, because they didn't have the information, they didn't have the same strength. So I don't know, maybe the series would have just ended if Trunks never came.
I think that's the key. I think he makes a really good point with just the raw information he came back with. It's essentially the almanac scenario where he comes back with information, because by nature of coming back from the future, he's giving them details that they would have never known. I think that being said, simply the android saga would have completely been different. I think that if we're going to go grand scope of things, if they were somehow able to best the androids, I think it's negligible, just based on the fact that Future Trunks doesn't really even show up that much for the Super Saga, if at all. It's mostly the Trunks from our timeline, the regular timeline. And he's, obviously becoming Gotenks and that sort of thing. But I think I'm with you, Carter. I believe that the Android Saga could have potentially been, a wrap for the Z Fighters if they didn't have just that critical information that they received from Trunks.
And another thing, I feel like, let's say they do best Cell, they do best to androids, and we're going into the Majin Buu saga. I think it would have been relatively the same, the Majin Buu saga, even if Trunks was never born to begin with, because Goten, Trunks don't really add too much to the roster to begin with. So I think for the most part, the Majin Buu saga would have played out as normal.
They would have never made it to the Majin Buu saga if the movies were canon, though. Because if it were for Trunks, they would have never been able to handle Brawly the second time when he came to Earth, right? Because
yeah, but again, I don't want to muddy the water. That's where we get really into some complicated territory if we just canonize everything, because by extension of that, it makes a lot of the movies really, as much sense as they don't make already, make a lot less sense. So
Yeah, that's true.
I think for this specific discussion, this is one of those ones where you basically have to be canon or nothing. There's no way to have the discussion with non-canon movies and other material.
Okay, well, if you're going canon, then like I said, Super's canon. It's canon. So what happens if Trunks doesn't come back in that timeline?
The first two sagas play out the same, obviously. Resurrection F, the Beerus saga, they still play out completely the same, except I don't even think Kid Trunks was even in either of those. So are we saying that Kid Trunks was never born?
I think by extension, we talked on the idea that maybe potentially Bulma and Vegeta would have never been even inspired to get together. So I think it's safe to say that there's no Trunks.
There's no Trunks, yeah.
There's no Trunks at all. Because again, like you say, everything plays out exactly the same if it's Kid Trunks just growing up and doing his shit. I mean, we obviously could touch in GT, but again, that's not canon. Even though I would love to, make speculation based on how GT would have went as a series without Trunks. But so many people, just not really enjoy that series anyway. I think it wouldn't have made much difference other than the fact that the Grand Tour would have basically just been Goku and Pan, which I think that dynamic would have just been worse. I think you have to have the Buddy 3 to really do the Grand Tour.
I forgot that Trunks was involved in the Grand Tour. Yeah, he was there the whole time.
Heavily. He was heavily involved in the start.
I just ask, what even is the Grand Tour? Like, I know little to nothing about GT.
So basically, how does it work? The first episode of Dragon Ball, they find out.
I'd like to feel this one because I'm the GT boy. I understand that you can do it, but so the idea is that Emperor Pilaf comes back. He's old.
I always hated that guy.
Me too. He's a dick.
I mean,
not even that. I just don't like the parts of the show where Pilaf is in. Even in the original Dragon Ball series, I think it was just really boring. Those parts of the show. I think in the original Dragon Ball series, I think the peak moments were the tournaments. That's what you really looked forward to in the original series. Yeah, I don't know. To be honest, I didn't love Dragon Ball. If I'm being completely honest, I think just the tournaments alone definitely saved it for me. But a lot of the stuff where they're just fighting Pilaf and
I think the Red Ribbon Army is coming for you, boy, because that was a statement that I can't agree with. But anyway, the Grand Tour was basically we get this kind of cutesy thing where Pilaf comes back. It's always nice to see a familiar face other than when it's Frieza. So when Pilaf shows up, he does this thing, which at the time we don't know this because Akira.
I just know Goku gets turned into a kid somehow.
Yeah. So the idea is that Pilaf, I think it was Pilaf who discovers that there's now Black Star Dragon Balls, and so he collects them, makes a wish, turns Goku into a child because his thought process is basically if he's a kid, he's not very tough. So again, there's really no reason for it for the Grand Tour, just other than to have like a fun-loving grandpa who's actually younger than you. And it's just like, it felt like it was really campy and it played out very, Goku's a kid again. So you get to relive essentially DB. You look like you're wanting to jump in there, Dal.
Yeah, okay, so the only thing I have is, so when Pilaf wished him as a kid, wasn't it that wish specifically that it was just too many wishes for Shenron and that's what caused the Black Star Dragon Balls to begin with?
Yeah,
I think I remember something like that being said in that series.
Like I said, it's been a long time, like a long time.
So basically, the idea is the Black Star Dragon Balls are now. I believe they make a wish with the Black Star Dragon Balls, but they don't realize that the planet that was wished on with the Black Star Dragon Balls is destroyed if they're not reunited or some shit. I can't honestly, I'm not going to sit here and say that I love the beginning of GT, but so it's just one of those things where Trunks was obviously heavily involved. They have to go on this grandiose adventure to go get the new Black Star Dragon Balls. There's a couple really interesting characters in GT. I find there was I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but there's a guy who had spikes on his shoulders that he ends up pulling them out. It's like lightsabers. I just love his character design. He was very unique. But then it's retconned in because initially, the idea of Goku being a kid really had nothing to do with the plot other than it just felt fun and campy. But then it's later Akira comes back and he's like, oh, no. You need to have the pure heart of a child to go Super Saiyan 4. So it really just kind of just felt like it was it just felt too easy. It's like, yeah, he's a kid, and then Vegeta can't do it because he's obviously doesn't have the pure heart of a child. He's an asshole. But then they cheat, and he's able to do it anyway because Bulma with baby mind control just makes a blunt wave machine, and it turns out you don't need to be a kid. They just completely everything they set up in the show is like torn down. It's just like Legos to them. They don't really care. So yeah, like I say, GT had its moments, but I can understand why people really don't like it, especially the animation style is very different. Everyone literally looks like they're made out of plasticine. There's a lot of reflection. The animation just looks different. And I get why people don't like GT.
If Akiri
Especially-
didn't come back though, like we wouldn't even be talking about GT. Like really, if it was just the Grand Tour, like if Akiri didn't come back and save it with Baby and Super Saiyan 4, like there's no series. Like there's no one would be talking about it ever. They wouldn't be asking to make it canon or anything. It would just be done because it's Akiri's little touch that he puts on Dragon Ball that made Dragon Ball Dragon Ball.
And it's the little touches too. I love the fact that Goku's 10 times Kamehameha is red. It has that crimson look. Also, one of my favorite villains in the entire series is in GT, and that's Hellfighter 17. I believe that this is the most underlooked character in the entire series. His look is so dynamic and sleek. I love the idea of you have the two different 17s from different timelines are now fused into one. And he was an absolute juggernaut. I mean, he had my favorite technique in the entire series, the Dark Moon Eclipse Bomber. It was the coolest looking technique. I love that character. So people can shit on GT all you want, but you got Baby, you got, Hellfighter, you got Super Saiyan 4, you have Super Saiyan 4, Gogeta. I would say that I wasn't even honestly that big of a fan of Omega Shenron. I just think he was kind of dull. He didn't really have any motivating factors to me, but he was there and he was tough. So
yeah, he was just the big bad. I mean, the big bads don't always have to be perfect. Look at Boo. Right. It is what it is. That's a thing. You can't really talk too much about Dragon Ball because there was so few shining moments in that actual series that it's kind of overshadowed by, the whole world tour, right? Like it is what it is. Super Saiyan 4, I think, was the one thing that people will bring out of that show. No offense to, because I think Hellfighter 17 was sweet, don't get me wrong, but I just think Super Saiyan 4 was the one thing out of that show which would make anyone want it to be canon just because of that form. And honestly, it's probably the coolest thing they've done transformation wise in the entire series. Like, come on, that red hair, man, like it's sick, dude. Like,
what else
big
have
fan.
they done though? What else have they done transformatively? Like really, it's like everything is a color change and an aura change. This was the first time where it's like Goku's got the red eyeshadow. He's got a different outfit when he changes. Like,
And they're Super Saiyan, but his hair's black now
yeah,
instead
yeah, I
of
love
instead of
it. And it's
blonde.
not even just his regular hair; it's almost like
Mhm.
mullet-fied with some shoulder shit going on. But another thing that I absolutely loved about Super Saiyan 4 Goku is he felt so evil. The way he talked, the way he fought, it was always just so, had this very dark brushstroke with it. So, I'm going to give him an A+ for that. I think that
Yeah.
Super Saiyan 4 is like my favorite Super Saiyan form. People might, it would be maybe a close tie with Super Saiyan 3 just because I love the no eyebrows. Let's get the hair long. But other than that, I feel like, all these later ones like Super Saiyan God and everyone hold hands now. We're going to give each other, a boost or whatever. The blue hair, I mean, that one felt so obvious to me. It's like, yeah, of course we had red, we had gold. You're going to throw some blue in there. That's fine. I feel like the transformations later just really didn't do it for me. But Super Saiyan 4, I love even Vegeta's. He's got those those Hollywood leather pants. He's looking great. I just think that the form itself is just so striking.
Ultra Instinct sign though, Carter, man, that's like pretty, like it's different. You know what I mean? Like, don't get me wrong.
It is.
Yeah, the look of
It's definitely different from any other transformation we've ever seen in the whole series.
absolutely. No,
I think mastered Ultra Instinct Goku is definitely up there, close to Super Saiyan 4. I still think Super Saiyan 4 is a cooler transformation overall, but I still think Ultra Instinct was really good. I think that's probably the shining factor of Super, period. I think that's the coolest thing they've introduced in that whole series. But I think before we end the podcast, we should probably touch on the Fusion Zamasu saga, what would have
Mhm.
happened if Trunks wasn't there.
Yeah, absolutely. You can start it, Carter, and I can take it away. I don't know how much Catlin knows about it,
I
but
don't
that's
have a
no big
dog in
deal.
this fight. I essentially know that I believe he had some conflict with Super Saiyan Rose Goku or whatever. Honestly, I don't know anything about this, so I'm gonna let you guys take the wheel on this one.
So I know when the Fusion Zamasu saga starts, it starts in Trunks in the alternate Trunks future, doesn't it? Where Trunks is fighting Goku Black or something like that. So that would have never been shown.
Mm,
Doesn't it
I
start with that, or does
no,
it
it
start that he comes and then? I think you probably know a little bit more than I do.
I'm just thinking how it actually starts. That's the only thing I don't really know. I know that Zamasu goes back into goes in the future. Basically, Zamasu's killed all the gods, which I think that's like kind of a weird plot hole in itself, because it's like, how is he strong enough to be able to take on all the gods and all the universes? Like, it doesn't really make sense, but
Mhm.
obviously he does it. And then he goes back to another timeline, absorbs go or switches bodies with Goku or whatever, and then kills him. So then that Goku Black goes and recruits the other Zamasu from it's weird because that's the thing. It does a lot of time jumping. Like, there's probably like 3 or 4, maybe even 5 different places in time they go, and it's all like,
Mhm.
it's definitely alternate universes, right? But I think, if I'm correct, that the trunks from the same trunks, I think, from the tournament of power and the same, or not tournament of power, sorry, the Cell Saga. I'm pretty sure that's the same trunks. I'm pretty sure that it just happens later in his timeline, and that's why he comes back. Because I remember his mom gets killed. It's all a little bit fuzzy when it comes to that. But
Mhm.
I do know for a fact that he was the catalyst in killing Fusion Zamasu.
Yeah, that's the main thing I was
Yeah.
thinking of is so Vegito would have been able to take out Fusion Zamasu, but they unfused again, and then Trunks is the one who finished him off. So would Goku and Vegeta have been able to finish him to begin with? It's kind of
Man.
hard to say because their energy has obviously been used up after the transformation. I think that's part of the reason they unfused is because they just used so much energy that it just like tired them out. I think that was actually part of it.
Well, they had barely energy going into that phase, because if you remember correctly, the fight with Goku Rose and Zamasu, it was long. It was a few episodes long, and don't get me wrong, Trunks did some stuff in there, but he never really shone in that arc. Like, he got his ass kicked by Goku Black, he got his ass kicked by Zamasu, and then after they merged together, all of a sudden he goes Super Saiyan Rage, crazy white-eyed Trunks with a little blue tinge in his aura, and slices and dices. He does his thing that he did to Frieza, and that was it. So who
The
knows?
thing I do really like about that transformation is how his sword gets turns into energy and just gets massive. I think that was really cool. It's kind of reminiscent of like Cloud from Final Fantasy, where he just has that massive sword and it's heavy and there's some weight to it. I thought that was really cool. But yeah, it's hard to say whether or not they would have been able to take out Zamasu to begin with.
But that's the thing. It might have just turned into Trunks' timeline where they're gone, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Because like it could have literally just hopped back there, because without Trunks going that form, they had no, like, you never know. It's Dragon Ball Z and Dragon Ball Super. Like Catlin said, you have a ship and there's a billion holes in it. So who really cares?
Well,
Yeah.
the thing that I'm kind of like seeing the pattern with Trunks not being there is like there's 50-50.
hmm
Basically, there are instances where he doesn't really affect anything, so it kind of just plays out the same. And then the other ones are there's some pivotal moments where basically it could have halted the series to like essentially them being defeated. So I mean,
definitely.
again, he is like one of the big boy characters. He's not like, I wouldn't even say he's top 5 as far as like importance to the series. Maybe it's hard to quantify that, but I think that basically the conclusion of this one sounds like when it does matter that he's around, it really matters, and it could potentially just put a nail in the coffin of the series at that point. So that's where I'm concluding it.
That's honestly, I'll agree 100%. Like, there's no
hmm
debating that. It's like, it's all or nothing. It's like, there's just so many things to it. It's like, either they don't get through the Android saga or they don't get through the Super Saga. It's either it's nothing, or they pull Zenzu beans out of their ass, and all of a sudden Goku and Vegeta have a Zenzu bean, and then they fuse into Gogeta and then take out, like, you know what I mean? Like, there is other things they could do, but yet again, like you said, Dragon Ball has so many holes throughout all of the series, and that's from Dragon Ball right to GT to all the movies. There's a lot of inconsistencies and stuff, but overall, it's an amazing show. And I mean, frick, it literally was like one of the biggest things in our young life. You know what I mean? Those forums, I remember like playing games outside, pretending we were Super Saiyan, whatever, right? You know what I mean? Like, it had a big impact on our childhood, more so than even like the really popular ones that came to North
Well, it's
America.
even crazy. It goes beyond that too, because I mean, the thing that you have to realize about Dragon Ball Z, especially, is it inspired like fan base like websites where you'd have like RP and stuff, and then it would also inspire like an arc called, I'm not sure if you're familiar with this part, but there was a thing called Dragon Ball AF where it was like Dragon Ball alternate future, like Super Saiyan 27 Goku.
Hey, you want to know a fun fact about AF? The person who did all the art and who drew the manga for AF is the lead designer of the manga in Dragon Ball Super. Akira Toriyama was so impressed with his work that he hired him, and he's the lead artist for the manga of Dragon Ball Super.
Hell yeah, dude.
That makes sense, because I read probably like half of the manga for Moro, the new arc after Super, and it's freaking good, man. Like, it's crazy how well done it is. I'm like, holy crap, because I've never really, as far as Dragon Ball goes, I've never really read the manga, to be honest. And I know a lot of people complain about that and stuff like that, but I mean, I've never really been into the whole manga thing per se. I like the translation and what the manga can turn into with really good artists, and you know what I mean, a lot of hard work, obviously. And
There's two camps though. There's two
yeah,
camps.
100%.
There's the fan service when it's good, and then there's the fan service when it's really bad. And I'm talking these like very low budget movies, live action. I think they need to just fucking stop doing live action Dragon Ball Z movies. That's a big yikes for me, dog. I don't know if that's ever gonna happen. I think it again, I mean, obviously, if they put it in my hands, I would make a fucking masterpiece. If I had unlimited funds and unlimited CGI potential, I'm gonna do it right. I'm gonna start it at the Saiyan Saga, and I'm just gonna, essentially have my own liberties. I would love to, have an endless budget just to essentially do that. But again, I don't. I have no interest in live action DB. I think live action DB needs to get, essentially just buried out back and forgot about. Because again, I'm not even going to get into Dragon Ball Evolution this episode. I think we'll obviously touch on that in an episode later, but that will be just three brothers shitting on fucking Dragon Ball Evolution.
Yeah, that'd be the title. Shitting on Dragon Ball Evolution.
That literally, like, I have nothing good to say. Like, nothing. I can't. Even if I wanted to try to defend it, there's no defending that piece of crap.
The first movie, I literally legitimately walked out of the theater. It was.
I stayed for it all, and I was disappointed in myself. But anyways, guys, that's basically the show. We talked about, as usual, we go down rabbit holes with this. There's just so many things with Dragon Ball, and there's so many episodes. There's over 300 episodes just in Z. Like, there's just a whole giant arc. We talked about Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, Dragon Ball Super. Kind of touched on the movies before Caddy shut that down. But if you want to get a hold of us, the best way to do it is through our YouTube channel. Just Three Brothers, type it on YouTube, first thing that pops up. Also, j3b.tv is our website, and that should be up in the next 2 weeks, hopefully. We're lighting a fire under our guy's butt to get that up for us. You can get a hold of us on J3B at Twitter, and you can get a hold of us at Just Three Brothers Podcast on Instagram. So yet again, thank you for watching. Thank you for viewing. Thank you for subscribing. We appreciate you guys, and we will show our appreciation by really giving back to our community and answering questions, comments, concerns, anything we can do to make our show better. We appreciate. So that's it. Have a good one, and see you guys next time, guys. Peace.
Later.